Track is brought to you by Olin Breweries and the Maritime Harness Racing Track Operators. And now, here's your host, Howie Trainer.
Hi, and welcome back to another edition of At the Track, and it was a very busy weekend around the Maritimes. The conclusion of Lobster Carnival Week in Summerside was the highlight of the scene. And on this afternoon's show, we'll look at the pacing colts in action. Also, we will take a look on how to read a racing program. All that and much more in a moment's time. The integrity of any sport, but especially harness racing, where public trust is a major factor, is very high on the list for all racetracks in North America. Here in Canada, we are extremely fortunate in having an organization called Racetrack Security Canada. Andy LeBlanc chatted with the Atlantic representative Ken Fitch. Here's that story.
Racetrack Security Canada has only been around for about 6 years. But in that time, racetrack officials feel there is less race fixing going on than in the old days. Ken Fitch is the man keeping a watchful eye over maritime track.
There was a concern, of course, of getting somebody in fairly quickly when there was a complaint made, and somebody with an expertise to do the investigation. So the Racetracks Canada decided, the board of directors decided that they'd form their own security for Canadian racetracks. And out of this was born Racetrack Security Canada.
The security agency is divided into regions. Across the country, 30 racetracks are members of the agency.
I know the Maritimes. I'm a native Maritimer. And this has given me the opportunity to get around fairly easily, and knowing people sure helps in the right places. For example, we do Sydney, Truro, Halifax, Charlottetown, Summerside, and the 3 tracks here, Exhibition Park Raceway, and the one here in Fredericton, and the one in Moncton, Champlain Raceway.
Okay, I'm sure what everybody's wondering is just what is it that you do? What are you investigating all the time?
Well, not only investigating, we do the security work for all the tracks. They want preventive security done. I'll go in and do a study of their security from a standpoint of safety. I've done those. I've carried out security seminars, which is getting to the horsemen and management and telling them what we do, that we're there to help them prevent things. And that's the basic line, is we're preventive orientated rather than jumping in and wanting to see things go to prosecution. However, if it comes to that, then we do carry out investigations from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Municipal police forces and the RCMP rarely have enough time to chase down possible leads into wrongdoing at racetracks, especially because most rumors do not turn up criminal activity. So it is Fitch's responsibility to carry out the preliminary investigations to determine whether calling in the police is necessary.
Where there's a complaint of a fixed race, then we carry out that investigation. Where there are offenses of positive tests appearing, we work very, very closely in all of this with Agriculture Canada and carry out investigations into such things as that.
Okay, positive tests in what way? You mean drugging the horses?
Yes, the drugging of the horses. We've had some of those, and they have to be followed through with an investigation and a hearing to try to determine who's doing it and so on.
Give us one example of a case where there was some sort of fixing of the results of the race.
We've had 3 such investigations here in the Maritimes in the last 3 years, one of which occurred here in Fredericton, and we followed that one through to the point where we felt there was evidence of criminal activity. And at that point, we are compelled to turn the case over to the local authorities, the police authorities having jurisdiction, which in this case was the Fredericton City Police. They came in and picked up where our investigation had stopped and carried it through to a conviction of one individual.
Fitch has a good deal of experience in doing investigative groundwork. He was with the RCMP 22 years before retiring and worked with the Department of Justice for about 5 years. Still, he says Racetrack Security Canada is a learning experience.
We'd like to see more of the preventive work done with the horsemen, with management. I feel it's essential that the horsemen today know what the law is in relation to the harness racing industry. I think that's very, very important, and I think it's also important for management to recognize what's involved here. What I'd like to point out is that there's not a lot of this going. The industry, I say, is basically clean. You do have, like you do in any other sport, you have the odd incident that appears from time to time and has to be subjected to a thorough investigation.
The 3 investigations into alleged race fixing since 1980 have made some people critical of track security, but Fitch sees it another way.
I think it shows the public that there is an arm of security there that is protecting the betting public. The people that come in here and put their money down must feel that there is an arm of protection there, and we like to think that Racetrack Security Canada is the beginning of that whole process.
In Fredericton, this is Andy LeBlanc at the track.
Harness racing in full swing around the Maritimes, and we'll check out the action from last week and early this week. Exhibition Park at St. John, top mile, Melanie down in 2:02.2. Over to Fredericton, it was Charlottetown 2:01.1. They had 8 new records in one program. At Champlain Raceway, Spike It Hot 1:58.3. At Truro, Atlantic Sire Stakes action, Island Heather, Tidal Blaze 2:04.2, 2:04.4. Elir Pino had both those winners. Sackville Downs, the 2-year-old Rye Toast in 2:05, a new record. To Tartan Downs for Super Rhythm in 2:02.1. At Summerside, Lobster Carnival week, and it was a big week. Stakes action, Dunmore Tweed 2:07.2. That's a 3-year-old trot. The 2-year-old trot, Jenny Ayres 2:08.4. Bill Be Sure 2:17.1. The Andrew Perry trot, Captain Jamie in 2:04. 3-year-old fillies, Isle of Time in 2:02.2. And Siesta Night in 2:03.2. And of course, the Governor's Plate, a new track record. It was winner's accolade in 1:59.1. At the CDP, Bye Sink over a heavy track 2:09.4. Big week as well for the drivers. Wally Hennessy now has 101 winners on the season. At Fredericton, Eric Lakes had a driving triple on 1 card and 5 for the week. At Sackville Downs, Danny Romo now has 105 winners, $100,000 in purse money, and a 368 percentage. At Truro, Carl Jameson had a 4-win night. Danny Romo had a 3-win night. At Sydney, it was Derek Petzarello, 5 winners on the week. Over to Champlain Raceway, Dave Carey, a driving triple, and 2 more wins on Tuesday night for Danny Romo. And at Summerside Raceway, top driver during Lobster Carnival week was Boyd McDonald with 7 victories. Reading A.
Race program can be a little bit complicated. We'll try to simplify things here this afternoon. We'll look at the top line. 5 symbolizes the race number of this particular program. Pace shows all paces in this event, and it will go for a distance of 1 mile. Over to the right, it shows exactor is the wagering feature. Right beneath the pace in 1 mile, black indicates the saddlecloth color, and below that, the purse is $23,000. Over to the right once again, this event is for non-winners of $22,500 in their last 7 starts. Also eligible to be in this race are horses who have not won 8 parimutuel races, as races in which there has been betting in their entire life. We'll go now to the horse, in this case a horse called Papa's Amy. Over to the left, 7-2 indicates the morning line odds, and those are the odds before betting has commenced. Just an idea of where the handicapper thinks this horse will fare in this particular race. 5 in this event shows this is the post position number 5, and below that is a claiming price of $24,000, and that is just there as an example. Below that it shows that the saddlecloth is black for this race. Papa's Amy, a bay mare, 5 years old. That's in the center line. B for bay, M for mare, 5 years old. The father or sire is Most Happy Fellow. The dam or mother is Carol Bye-Bye, and her father or sire is Bye-Bye Bird. Over to the right, the trainer of this horse is Louis Fierro Jr. We'll drop down to the center of the program again. This horse is not owned by Louis Fierro Sr., but he is the lessee, and he lives in Belleville, New Jersey. Go over to the right once again, beneath the name of the trainer. We'll see some symbols, and we'll go backwards. The farthest one is $4,700. That's the earnings of this horse last season, 1,986, this season rather, 4,700. The below that, $9,030 are the earnings from last season. We'll go up again to the M1. That symbolizes that the 1:58.1 is the fastest winning time for Papa's Amy in 1986 at the Meadowlands, which is a 1-mile track, the 1 signifying the distance of the track. In 1986, the horse started 6 times, has won but 1 time, no seconds and no thirds, and again, the $4,700 is the money earnings. Dropping down to the line below that, $9,030, as we mentioned, the purse earnings for last year, but starting from the left again, 1:59 and 2 is the best winning time. That came at Liberty Bell, the LB, a 5/8 mile track. In 1985, Papa's Amy had 24 starts, 3 wins, 3 seconds, and 2 thirds. We'll go over to the far left again, beneath the name of the horse. $17,169 is the horse's lifetime earnings. And the fastest winning time for this horse is 1:58 and 1, taken as a 5-year-old. That would be in this season at the 1-mile track. The driver is Jimmy Doherty. The next symbols show his birth date, followed by his weight, and then the red, white, and green symbolize his silks. We'll drop down to the next slide, and this is the important line. It shows the performance. This horse raced 6:25, that's June 25th, at the Meadowlands, a 1-mile track. The purse of the race was $8,500. FT shows that the track was listed as fast. We'll just forget the next 2, the F, dash, and M, because that applies only to the Meadowlands. It was a $20,000 claiming race, and the distance was 1 mile. The next symbols are the times of the leading horse. 28 and 4 for the quarter, 57 and 1 for the half, 1:27 for the 3/4, and 1:56 and 4 was the time of the mile. The next symbols are where this horse, Papa's Amy, was in relationship to the leading horse. Started from post 9, he was 10th at the quarter, 9th on the outside at the half, the little 0 indicating the outside, still 9th on the outside of the 3/4. He was 9th by 9 1/2 lengths at the top of the stretch, and he finished 6th by 2 3/4 lengths. The horse's actual time, 1:57 and 2. $12.90 were the dollar odds on the horse in this race. The driver is in brackets. It is Ted Wing. The next are abbreviations of the horses which finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And the symbols at the far right are not usually found in most maritime programs, but they show the temperature at the time of the race, and then the dash, and the next symbol is whether or not the wind was a factor. You can just continue those on down, and some other symbols, will go down a few more to the line 5:28. You'll see a 70X. That means the horse made a break after being on the outside. And on the very bottom line, we'll see 23IX. That means the horse made a break after being interfered with. And then 5EX means the horse made a break with some equipment problems. But that's a very, very brief rundown of how to read your program. But when you are at a racetrack, just take a look. There is a glossary inside the front and an illustration of a program with all the symbols. We'll be back in a moment's time.
Again, we're back with our glossary of harness racing terminology, and again we'll stay with the racing aspect. Garden spot. That's a name given to the horse second on the rail, behind the horse setting the pace. He is considered to be setting in the garden spot. Cooling out. That's walking a horse after a training mile or a race until the horse's body signs return to normal. Lapped on. That's when a horse's nose is at least opposite the hindquarters of the horse ahead at the finish line. Have you heard the expression lapped on break at the wire? More of our facts and figures. The highest recorded pay for a $2 win ticket is $1,368.50. That came at Scarborough Downs in Maine in 1981. The most money ever wagered on a harness racing program, $4,148,063. That came at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey, also in 1981. The attendance record for a race card was set in 1960. 54,861 fans attended the first international trot at Roosevelt Raceway in New York City. And more about horses winning and losing. Sort of a record of ignominy, the longest losing streak by a horse, 124 consecutive races set by a horse called Shy Away Moses between 1978 and 1984. And I'm sure that's a record that the owner, trainer, and driver do not like to see in the record book, but there must be winners and there must be losers. Well, as I mentioned earlier, many highlights of Lobster Carnival Week at Summerside, Prince Edward Island last week. We'll take a look at some of these stakes colts in action. Here's that story from Lobster Carnival Week.
Perfect weather and ideal track conditions greeted the two-year-old colts A-Division Series. We pick up with race 6, the first of 2 on the day. Favorite P.H. Steve in the lead.
P.H. Steve with the lead. Bayside Rangers second, Buckaroo third. Here comes Dalton Camp up on the outside, followed by Freezing Forecast, and BBA Fashion is the trailer. They were at the half in 1:01. It is P.H. Steve in at the rail. Dalton Camp second, the outside. Freezing Forecast comes on third. They're on the back stretch going to the 3/4. P.H. Steve is turning it on up front. Dalton Camp second, the outside for third. They go by the 3/4. P.H. Steve up on the outside. Buckaroo drives second. In at the rail third. That is Freezing Forecast. 1:32 and 2 at the 3/4. And 1/8 of a mile left to go. P.H. Steve turning for home on top. Here comes Buckaroo up on the outside second. Dalton Camp comes on third. They drive to the wire. P.H. Steve and Buckaroo on the outside. They go to the wire. It'll be P.H. Steve, Buckaroo for second, Dalton Camp for 3.
After the race, driver Dougie Walsh had no complaints on how the race went. Tell us about the race and how it went.
Well, it went along just great. I had the rail and went right to the front with my horse, and he cut it all the way. And he was a lucky to get home a winner.
Dougie Walsh didn't know it at the time, but he would be in the thick of it again in the second half of today's A-Division Series, race 9.
Off the turn they come, down the lane to the half. They're being led by Cap Young. In at the rail, P.H. Bobby. He now goes to the outside third. That is Red Wing, wide fourth, Charlotte's Night. Fifth is Pine Way Cadet, and Turport Finesse is the trailer. Half was timed in 1:02. They're on their way by the 5/8. It is Cap Young up on the outside second, P.H. Bobby. Charlotte's Night is third. Wide for fourth, Red Wing. They're on the back stretch. To the 3/4, Cap Young holding them off. The outside, P.H. Bobby second. Wide now for third, Red Wing. Charlotte's Night is fourth. They go on by the 3/4, pacing to the upper turn. Cap Young on the outside, P.H. Bobby second. On for third is Red Wing. 3/4 in 1:33. An 1/8 of a mile left to go. The outside, P.H. Bobby. Cap Young in at the rail up on the outside. Red Wing third. A drive to the wire. P.H. Bobby to the top. That's the way it'll be. P.H. Bobby up for second. Looks like Red Wing. Cap Young for 3.
So once again, driver Dougie Walsh, in the colors of owner James Shive of Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia, returns to the winner's circle, taking both ends of the 2-year-old colt A-Division Series Atlantic Sire Stakes. There must be something in the air here at Summerside, Doug. It's two winners in a row here pretty well for you.
We just had a little luck today, that's all.
What was the difference between this race and the 6th race, which you also won?
It was run a little different. I raced to the hole of this one, and the other colt cut it out with him.
So this was more of a speed race than a strategy race?
No, not really. I knew that their colt in the front end was a speed horse, and I just hoped I was lucky enough to catch him, that's all.
What were you expecting going into this race?
I expect that colt to be awful tough that was on the front end there, and I wasn't too sure if my colt was good enough to beat him or not.
Orville Willis is one of the directors of the Atlantic Sire Stakes. He says plans are in the works to put all the winning colts from this series head-to-head in a big showdown race.
When I say series, it'll be a championship race, a race at the end of the season that they'll go for a considerable amount of money than they are going for today. And that hasn't been completely worked out yet, but that's been in the works right now. And that'll be a little change. There will be a championship race with all the better colts in their particular. See, right now you got, say today, 2 divisions of A-Division colts. So what it'll mean at the end of the season in the future in the next 2 years, there'll be 8 top colts go, 2-year-olds. The top 8 colts will go as a championship. And it'll be same thing for fillies and trotters and everything. That's the next step for the Atlantic Stars program. That's a change that's going to be made. And I think it's a good step. It just gives them a chance to race for more money at the end of the season. It gives the 8 top colts a chance to race for the big money. And this tracks have been asking for this, and they like when they call a championship race, they like that kind of a race because it draws people.
Thank you very much, Orville. At the Summerside Raceway for At the Track, this is John Morrison.
Well, that time of year is almost upon us. Old Home Week at Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. There'll be lots of action around the CDP. Tonight, action is the Lady Nora for 2-year-old pacing fillies. Country Days starting off next Thursday. They go double cards then all the following week for Old Home Week. 1 week from today, the first of 2 Gold Cup and Saucer trials on the evening program. At Fredericton on Monday, a holiday program, Atlantic Sire Stakes. 3-year-old fillies and colts of the pacing variety. Post times will be 1:30 and 7:30. At EPR, Atlantic Sire Stakes for 2-year-old trotters on Wednesday night's program. And EPR has dropped Fridays. They're back again to Saturday afternoon, post time of 2 o'clock. Tonight at Truro, it's the $7,500 Dairy Queen pace. That's the Johnny Conroy coming up as well tomorrow, and that winds up their Grand Circuit Week. Action Cup at Tartan Downs starting tonight, a $4,000 feature, and racing next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. There is no racing this week, and we're not sure of the story next week on Sackville Downs as to their schedule. Regular racing at Champlain Raceway on Tuesday and Saturday. We'll be back with more in a moment's time.